Hi everyone, it's Christine Aldridge at CLAldridge Art, and I am back finally for part 4 of coloring with Derwent Inktense in my book Flowers and Dreams. As some of you may have noticed, I put up a new video last night featuring the latest Sue Curry book, Susan Curry, who had been hard at work on creating and finishing her 5th coloring book, and I do the publishing for her, and so I've been really busy getting all of that done and also drawing some new drawings for my next book. There is a video on both drawing with tools and drawing freehand in my playlist that feature one of the many drawings. This is something I'm working on. I'm just playing with this next. It's going to be a wreath. Obviously it's got no details yet, but and then I pulled out some old frames that I did that I'm thinking of recycling for the next book. These are, I apologize for those easily offended, these are some things that I drew for a different purpose and under a different name that were, hang on, I apologize, I'm going to cut that part out. This obviously is that last drawing that I did. But I, at one point in time, I thought that I needed to cave into the crowd who was doing nothing but coloring snarky, obscene, curse word kind of pages. And those, a couple of years ago, those books were at the very tip top of, believe it or not, the Amazon bestsellers lists. And I thought I needed to cave into that. I did about 4 drawings, and I just couldn't stomach it, so I stopped doing them. But the art was pretty good, so I'm trying hard to revamp at least the drawing part of that by removing the awful things that they had to say. And so we'll see how that goes, if I'm able to pull those up as some bonus pages at the end of my next book or not. I was hoping to have my next book out by this month, and I'm still hoping for the end of the month. But tonight, I would very much like to color something. And I have been, like many of you, disturbed by the disturbance in the coloring community. And I don't know the players very well. As a matter of fact, I don't know them at all. But it's caused me to want to proceed very cautiously, I guess, with anything that I might do. And it has given me a great deal of things to think about as a member of the community. So, I do want to talk about that a little bit tonight, but not really. What I want to do right this very second is color. One of the things that I've been doing is I've been watching Lisa Lackery. And if you don't know who Lisa is, she is the artist who was commissioned by Derwent to do the whale tin. Now, I noticed that mine is not the whale. Mine is the peacock. But there is a set of the tins out there that feature a beautifully done whale. And as a matter of fact, here's a small piece of it here on the small 12 set. And Lisa is Lisa Lackery of Lackery Art, L-A-C-R-I, is the one who did this. And she has done an awful lot of art using Derwent Inktense. So I created a new playlist called Artists Advanced Tutorials, and I put that as a playlist under my videos. And it has a number of Lisa's videos demonstrating how to use Inktense well. So I've been watching her, and based upon what I've learned from her, I do want to go back and show you a couple things, or actually, I guess by show you, what I want to do is be a little bit less timid about how I've been using Derwent Inktense on this. And, oops, sorry, I had to put that away. And then proceed ahead from there. But for right now, let's put in some lovely color. I'm just going to flip this tray so that I can slip this one inside. And our main colors here are fuchsia, and I am going to go into the fuchsia and do the outsides of all of my blue flowers. And I do, because those are very, very narrow spaces, I am going to take my color directly from the brush, or from the pencil. So I've moved down to the smallest brush size that I have. Hang on a second, there we go. Getting control of my zoom back. To the smallest size of my water brushes again. And let me see if I can establish a little flow into the brush. Once again, I am showing you guys a clean paper towel just for you. But to do this, you just want to dab your brush on the very tip of the pencil. And what that's going to do is it's going to make it fairly wet, but it's also going to capture a really concentrated color right here on your brush. So then you can go in just like a fine liner and lay down your color. And I like that. I like that very much. So one of the things that I've been contemplating is, before I go too much further with a YouTube channel, what do I want my channel to do? What do I want it to be? And more importantly, who do I want to be for the art community? I would like to be somebody who you learn from. I would like to be somebody who learns from others. I am not a sufferer in any way. And what I mean by that is that I don't have a chronic illness or anything that that I don't want to say that makes me one of you, because not everybody does. I just love to draw, love to color. I have a tendency to always try and be positive. I don't look at the negative side of life. There's too many people willing to do that. I don't like to be drugged into controversy. And for lack of a better way to put it, I don't really suffer fools very well. and which is one of the reasons why I am kind of a keep to myself kind of human being, I think. So from that from those particular standpoints, there are people that I am really attracted to, that I learn something from, or that always have a sunny, positive attitude. One of those, it occurred to me today, I was watching Anne over at A Colorful Life, and hers is a color and chat, and I first became aware of Anne when she contacted me and asked me to be a featured artist in July. Now, up to then, I had not really paid much attention to YouTube. I certainly knew it existed. There were channels on YouTube that reviewed my books, and I was aware of them. I had a YouTube channel myself where I would put my video flip-throughs that I would create with my handy Windows Movie Maker. And that is as much as I really knew about YouTube. I used it to find a video that showed me how to change the battery in my iPhone. That kind of thing. But through Anne and the people at A Colorful Life, I learned about all of the other channels, and just at the moment, pretty much, that Anne did her first live stream featuring my books, Color with Claire came out with a list of her favorite channels, and the first one out of the box was A Colorful Life. So, and then I checked out all of the other ones from Claire's list, and I was subscribe. And I have quite literally learned something new from every one of those channels. Then came the Color Like Nothing, or Color Like Nobody's Watching event, where we did the 48-hour marathon, and I subscribed to a bunch more channels at that point in time. And so I've been watching all of those as well, and learning, who the different people are in the color tube, as Anne would say, the color tube. And I think that is very, very cool. So when I started my own channel, I had tons and tons and tons of examples of different styles of channels. So, in an effort not to copy anyone or emulate anybody else too closely, that kind of thing. So far, I have stuck with just making pre-recorded videos about things that I know about, or things that I'm working on or trying, or, like the discovery of the Derwent Inktense, I owe entirely to May Brock's. Watching, or my interest in all things watercolors really has come from Zarget Hunter. I do love the modernist colorist because he has just a completely different take on every, because he's a man, has a completely different take on things. I love the Art Sherpa. Once again, even though I don't color with acrylics or, do anything with acrylics. She does occasionally do a watercolor tutorial, and she does an awful lot of blending techniques and things like that. But more than anything else, she's just entertaining. I mean, if you haven't seen Cinnamon Cooney painting and talking, and she's got these wonderfully wild outfits, and she's very encouraging to try new things. Really important with lessons that are necessary, and things that you should know. She spends tons and tons of time practicing what she preaches, basically. And I really like that. Her channel and Lisa Lackry's channel, Lacry Art, are the two most professionally done, multi-camera work, studio setup, that kind of thing. Now, the other one, who I so admire, is Jennifer Stay over at Coloring Bliss. And because she has taken I guess you would say the independent, the not necessarily somebody who's coloring Derwent Inktense tins for sale across the world, but who makes a wonderful product that people love, that companies, that she demonstrates the whole range of things, from, what is the best budget pencil, or is there really a best one? Is just because this works for me, does that mean it won't work for you? She has done the gel pens, which are the best gel pens to use. Really something valuable for the coloring community. And that is who I would like to be like. I would like to bring value to this channel for all of you. And so in the comments, if you would do me a favor and tell me when you're looking for people to watch, what is it that you are looking for? Are you hoping to learn something? Are you just, because believe me, I can do the hanging out part. I can just switch on the camera and sit here and talk for hours and hours and hours. and color or draw or whatever, but I don't want to be not valuable. That whole favorite quote that I have about no one is a burden no one in life is useless who lifts the burdens of another, or eases the, I don't remember it. But my other favorite saying is, success is not a privilege, it must be earned every day. So, if I have success, I want you to tell me how I can earn it. What do you want from CLAldridge Art? Beside, of course, the one thing that I will always give you, and that is, hopefully, pretty things to color. That sort of is a given. So before I started doing these videos, the first thing that I tried to do is pay attention to the quality of the product that I was making. Now my lighting isn't the best, but it'll do. And I could make it better if I went out into my garage and yanked out all my show equipment and yanked in I'm sure I've got something out there that would shed more light in this room than any television studio. And the only, of course, there's no sound equipment out there, but I am really so satisfied with this webcam. I have to say that the Logitech is the 920 C920 is just an excellent camera, and at under $50, it has been one of the best investments that I've made in a long time. And everything else is free software. I am broadcasting through OBS, which is a hugely powerful Linux-based open source software. And it's got full studio mode, so I could have multiple cameras and do all of that kind of stuff, but without somebody to run the studio while I'm, talking online, it's just easier to do it a single camera, pointed downward, and all of that. I'm not afraid to show my face, and perhaps I will someday, but having the downward-facing camera also means that if I want to color in my pajamas at 3:38 in the morning, you don't know that I'm doing that. So that is one of the reasons why I use the downward-facing camera. And I like it, I have to admit, I like it much better than my cell phone. My cell phone was much easier to use. I could load directly to YouTube directly from the phone, but I really didn't care for the overall limitations that I had. I had to use it at an angle, and you have to break up the video into pieces, that type of thing. Okay, on to these ones down here. And hopefully you're not finding this part boring. I just want to get the color down on this. So these are the things that I think about. I think about production quality. And to that end, not only do I watch a lot of videos, I watch a lot of the way that videos are made. For instance, I love coloring with Sammy. I color and chat with Sammy. I could watch her all day long. Love the British accent, of course. Adore her personality. She could be a terrible colorist, and her personality would be wonderful. The fact that she happens to be a star in the coloring field is like icing on the cake. And those people that other people just want to flock around? Sammy is one of those. And she's another one. I always learn something new by watching Sammy color. I mean, I watch her technique. I listen, when she's talking about how she does things. I listen why she's doing them. I watched her save that pop manga drawing that she, or cute little ice cream girl drawing that she had done in the pinks, and we talked her into trying to use a pan pastel olive green or some such thing like that on the background, and she immediately hated it. It did not meet her artist vision of what she wanted that to do, and I had no idea how she was going to fix it, and yet she just, whoops, sorry, and yet she came back on, streaming, and used pink acrylic paint and painted over the pan pastel, and then used a stencil on top of that to add texture, and it was brilliant. It was a brilliant save. One of the things I liked about Lisa Lackery's videos that I just watched and made the playlist on is that she's doing, if you watch the clownfish one, which I think is the one dated October 13th, just today, she makes a number of mistakes and then shows you how to correct them. And, using nothing but the Derwent Inktense. And so that, once again, that is who I would like to be. I would like to be somebody that brings value to ColorTube. Melissa, or not Melissa, well, Melissa is great too, but Sky, Dream in Color. I'll be the first to admit, I don't particularly like the big-eyed girl art. I mean, I think I've said that before. Not for my personal coloring, but I watch because I never fail to learn something about blending, about color fades, color combinations. I just learn a ton from her. And like yesterday, was it yesterday, or it was I watched it after, so it was a live stream, but I didn't watch it live. And she used the metallic gold and and then a yellow, and then used stickles on top of some stars on a witch's hat. And she faded it out. I mean, these teeny tiny little spaces. And she managed to fade it out and use the stickles on top, and the result was fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. And then she used a metal paint on the edges of the hat. It's that kind of stuff. That creative final touches, all of that. I love all of that. Dee Dee Willingham, of course. Now, I don't catch Dee Dee very often. But I love her approach to art. It's her, I mean, she's just wildly talented, for one thing. And I admire that from an artistic standpoint. She is just simply a wildly talented artist. And I love everything she does. I really love her portraiture. Love the animals that she does. Love that she colors. Absolutely love, excuse me, her work in Serene and in on the Jasmine Beckett, or Jasmine Griffin Beckett, or the other way around, Beckett Griffith work. It is all just so, so gorgeous. Pardon me. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do these little pearls too, since I've got the pink in my hand. What did we do on those? Okay. I love Mary Altier. Mornings with Mary. Because she's just wild. Absolutely wild. You never know what she's going to do. She does a ton of journaling. You know, journal pages. And oftentimes she'll do them with these. It's like a deck of cards. And on the cards are prompts. So one of the prompts will say, you know, do something in ink. And another one will say, add lace. And so whatever the prompt says, she calls them pick tens. And she can come up with some really cool stuff. Sorry about that, everybody. I had to take a break really quick. And I have sort of lost track of where I was, so couldn't have been very important. So, that, of course, now, because my trains of thought always run in a circular pattern, that made me start thinking, okay, so who do I want to be? Pardon me. And then who do I want to hang out with? Because you can easily lose yourself all day long in watching YouTube. And that is both a good thing and a bad one. I am a poor time manager. I've never been good at time management. And because I'm so easily distracted. So because of that, I've noticed that if I really want to get things done, I have to leave the TV off. Or, you know, I have to not have the computer on. Although, you know, since so much of what I do is on the computer, that doesn't always work out. Because I think, oh, well, I'll just go look at it for 5 minutes, right? And then 5 hours later, I'm still watching somebody paint something. Or, so it is very easy to get lost in. So by necessity, I kind of have to only watch those people that bring a value to my time. Or the time that I have to invest. Or those people who are just pleasant to be around. Because I also am one of those that is, because my emotions tend to be empathetic rather than sympathetic. I can put myself in other people's shoes. And that, you know, then I feel terrible for them. And it brings on generally a bout of depression. So I have to, well, I don't really suffer from illness. I am fairly, I don't want to say easy to manipulate by circumstances, because that's not that's not true. But it's kind of like, you know, if you hang out with Debbie Downer, you become Debbie Downer, that kind of thing. So I always have to watch that I monitor the inputs that I have, you know. So I've had to cut down on the amount of news that I watch because my blood pressure can get out of hand pretty quick as I get more and more outraged, you know, that kind of thing. So I definitely want to be a channel that is always controversy free. A place where you can come and find refuge from all the controversy going on. So learn something from me. So I want to, you know, I want to be of value, and I want to be a resting place for the weary, so to speak. But I also want to be entertaining. And that is where I sort of run into my own personal brick wall. I don't think I'm very entertaining at all. And so that is, you know, that so and that is my struggle, I guess. My struggle is, excuse me, beside the fact that I can hardly talk and I've got a ton of congestion right now in my chest. I don't think I'm very entertaining. So I have to make it up by being valuable, I guess. And being positive. That is really the thing. Always, always, always being positive. Okay, these guys here are bothering me. I don't like the yellow, or only the yellow. So there was something that I discovered sort of accidentally over in my a page that I'm working on. Actually, I'll show it to you. This is a page from my book. Fantasy Flower Garden. It is the one that I released late last year. I want to say it might have been early this year. It's my last book. Okay, the last book I released, this was in it. And he is, of course, just got a base coat on him. I'm going to do him with pencils, and we'll do that on film. But the Derwent Inktense part is the part I've been doing in the background. But I discovered accidentally when I was trying to change the color on these little flowers that if this was the golden yellow, the same color that I used. Actually, I think I might have used a lemon yellow here. But this, not the chromium orange. It's the sienna gold. The sienna gold makes an interesting color if you only put it on half. It's very subtle. So I wanted to try that on this. And it keeps with the orange. On the other hand, because I use the more bumped up orange here, maybe the cadmium would be the better choice. Let's look at the color swatch book. Okay, so that's the cadmium. Oh yeah, definitely the cadmium as opposed to the sienna. Yeah, the cadmium. Because the cadmium is the same orange that I used here. And that'll help tie those two in. Okay. The other thing I wanted to show you. But we'll wait. No, we won't. I'll show it to you now while I got the camera back down. Do you remember that I had started a picture during the Color Before the Storm when Florence was approaching where I live? I don't know if I showed this to you or not, but I did finish it, and this was the finish on it. And this was all done with the Deli Starjoy pencils, and they're the ones that are in the tin. They're the Polychromos wannabes, basically. They're like a cheaper version of the Polychromos, and they're an oil-based pencil. I have to admit, I absolutely loved the way that they performed, and it is really nice. I finally found a good use for those hologram, the hologram paint, hologram extreme glitter paint. I did bubbles. I think you can sort of see them. I ended up outlining I needed to get rid of the black lines, so I just outlined them with white gel pen. And I think it turned out very nicely. So that's that. And this is Chris Garver's Color Odyssey that I picked up over at Book Outlet. Okay. All right, so this is the... Yep. So this is the cadmium orange. So let's do this. We're just going to go with half of the petals on this. And I am actually giving it a pretty good pressure. Not a lot, but I'm not making an effort to be light. One thing about it, when you're doing your second coat or second layer, you do have to be a little more aggressive with the light tones to get them to flow down, or to get them to see. And then I'm just sort of fading it into the yellow. Wipe that off. I make the yellow wet first, and then when you're working with these light colors, excuse me, it is best to dab off your brush before you go into the next petal. The only reason being is that it picks up just enough of the orange that the space is small enough to where it ends up being sort of too blended. So, and this is also to show you that the yellow doesn't move. Unlike watercolors, once Derwent Inktense is dry, it does not move again. And you can layer and layer and layer and layer and layer. And as long as the paper will hold up under the water, which if you let it dry between thoroughly, it should, and you don't get it too wet to begin with, you can layer to your heart's content forever. This is, once again, this is CreateSpace paper. Oh, that's the other thing, is CreateSpace, of course, has been completely absorbed into Amazon now. And so now, instead of CreateSpace, it's all KDP, which is called Kindle Direct Publishing. So as authors, we knew that this was going to happen. Now this, we think, because Victorian Darlings, I believe, is Hannah Lynn's new book. And she has, of course, always been with CreateSpace. People are commenting that her new book has better paper in it. And I happen to know, because she's a member of my authors group, that she was one of the first to move in advance over to KDP. And our hope is that with the move to KDP, that the paper quality will be more under the control of Amazon, and we may see an improvement in it. I cannot make that promise, but I am keeping my fingers crossed. So I really like the way that that looks. And because I like the way that it looks, I think we'll do it over here too. I also learned from Lisa Lackery's videos about how to effectively use, oops, I do apologize if I am off the camera, how to effectively use the white. Apparently the white in the 72 set is barely opaque, and you can use it if you get colors that are too dark. Excuse me. So I'm going to test that out by trying to increase the highlights in the, like these got especially dark, and any place else on this one that we may get too dark. So I may have mentioned at the beginning of this series that I am not an expert in this medium. I am still learning like everybody else. I can tell you that the water mediums in general, and I'm probably repeating myself, are my absolute favorites. I love colored pencils, but there is just something about having a brush in your hand that satisfies an artistic need that I have, I guess. And if you want to see me draw and would like me to do more of those drawing videos, let me know that too. I really had fun making those. Those two. And so we shall see if you want me to do any more. I will tell you that I shared them on Facebook, and hardly anybody saw them, which I found a little disturbing. And except my artist friends. All of my artist friends watched them because they've always been curious as to how I do it. And so now they know my secrets. All my artist friends watched. The coloring people apparently just didn't care. So just keep putting them out there, Christine. Okay. So now let's go with doing these guys. And I had mentioned before that I wanted to do those green, and I have not changed my mind. So I am going to do them green. And I believe that what I did on the others is I used the apple green and the hooker screen. Pretty sure it was the hooker screen because I remember the broken pencil. This is what happens when I wait so long between making videos. Okay, now, having learned what I did from Lisa today, I learned that I had tried to blend these two over here badly. My method was bad. Her suggestion is to put down your lighter color first, let it dry, and then use your darker. Now, I tested that method on this one in this area here. So what I did on this one is I used Willow, which was a very yellow brown. And then I let it dry completely and went back and put in just a bit darker on the sides, and it blended much nicer. It gave me the effect that I was going for, but missed over here with the greens. So I think that I'm going to do this other side that way. And start with my apple green and just sort of go for the all-over effect. Not worry about blending or anything like that right now. I'm just going to go ahead and use the apple green as a base. Not using any pressure on the pencil. Once again, just laying down a little pigment. Very light pressure. Just let the pencil do the work. It's laying down plenty of pigment for what you need. And that is something that you have to train your hand to do. If you need to hold your pencil back here to be able to do that, then that's what you should do. I fortunately am able to hold it a little further up, and I just simply relax my hand so that I'm really only using my fingers, to move it around. That fine motor control. Excuse me. So if you, like me, found yourself subscribed to a bunch of channels that send you tons of notices, but that you're not really getting anything from, don't be afraid to unsubscribe. I love one of the channels that I stay subscribed to because she's on in the middle of the night my time, but it's the middle of the afternoon her time, is CBC, which is Heather in Australia. She is a brilliant colorist, really brilliant colorist, and entertaining. She's got personality and a half. She's always positive. Plus, I love her dog. She has a dog named Bess, who is a Rottweiler and reminiscent of. I had a Doberman Rottweiler once. His name was Jeremiah, and I didn't name him. That was the name that he came with. But he was the best dog in the world, and just a character and a half. Big old goofball of a dog. The best dog that I ever had was named Buddy, and he was he was a rescue, but he had belonged to some friends of ours who were not able to keep him. They had an elderly dog, and Buddy was he was a puppy, and he was just too rambunctious for them. So they gave him to my ex-husband and myself. And he was a mix of golden retriever and Great Pyrenees. So he looked like a golden, but he had this huge curved Great Pyrenees tail. And he was smart as a whip. And he was great at parties. We lived on an acre of land and had every year we had a Super Bowl party. And it was at a time when all of the people that we were friendly with had small children. And so you could count on Buddy to keep the kids entertained and herded. You know, he would literally herd them out of danger. If anybody got too near the rock pond, he would herd them back into the crowd. He was a great dog. But he was an escape artist. Oh my goodness. I used to get the call at work from the grocery store on the corner, and they'd say, "Christine, Buddy's here again. What do you want us to do?" I said, "Well, can you send somebody up to put him back in the yard?" "Yeah, but it won't do any good. You know he'll get out again." "Yeah, I know." And then there was the day that my mother-in-law came to visit, and accidentally, because she didn't like dogs at all, forgot to close the gate. And because we knew that they were coming, and he would get so excited. So we had a 100-foot chain for him. And of course, I have a real problem with chaining up a dog at all, but I was kind of okay with 100 feet of chain. And we had kind of carefully mapped it out so that he couldn't get any real, there was no strangulation danger or anything like that. All the fences were low enough to where he could easily get over them, and we tested out and smoothed out the top of the fence so that there was nothing for a chain to catch on, that kind of thing. But otherwise, he'd have been out and about in the neighborhood all day long. And so we kind of had to do it from that standpoint. But my mother-in-law came and she let him out. Or basically what happened is that she hooked up the wrong end of the chain. She, instead of hooking it to the dog, she hooked it to the house. Or, I don't know. Anyway. But he got out, dragging 100 feet of chain. So I got home from work. He couldn't have been gone that long. He was gone maybe 2 hours. And I got home from work, had groceries in my arms, and, you know, my mother-in-law says, Buddy ran away. And so I, of course, immediately dropped the groceries for them to start putting stuff away. And I went out looking for Buddy. And I'd call him and I could hear him barking. But I couldn't find him because we lived in a canyon. And it played with the sound. So I looked for him for about an hour and I could hear him, but I couldn't find him, and I was getting more and more panicked because he was sounding more and more panicked. And so Jim, my ex, got home from work and we went out together. And with one of us high and one of us low, we could finally, and we had our cell phones, we finally were able to locate the dog. And he had wrapped himself around a mesquite tree to the point where it was, by the time we found him, it was dark, full on dark. And the only thing to do was just unchain him and go back to the chain the next day, because it was so wrapped around the bush that there was no way we were going to be able to see to unhook him. But boy, was he glad to see us. And he never went near my mother-in-law again. Yeah, I just had to laugh. I thought that's pretty funny that he made that association, that she had sort of let him go on purpose. Losing that dog was when he passed away, he died of cancer. It was so sad. It was sad. It was so sad. It really was like losing our child, at least for us, because we didn't have any kids. So that was a very sad time. But animals simply are not ever going to outlive us. You know, if you have one that's going to live a good life and be a happy dog, and chances are pretty good you're going to lose them before they lose you. And it is a part of life that you have to come to grips with, I guess. Doesn't make it any easier, but and I've never been very good at being without a pet, so I am the type that people think I don't want to say they think I'm cold-hearted, but because that isn't true. But like I had when I moved into my house, I inherited a cat. The people who lived here before me had an 8-year-old marmalade tabby who didn't get along with their other cat. And so they said that since they were moving to a different house, that they were going to take Goober, is what they called him. His name was not Goober. But it is what I called him. His, oh shoot, it'll come to me. I always called him Goober. Actually, I always called him Sweet Kitty. But I had him for the next 10 years. And he was 11 years, actually. He was 19 when he died. And I didn't last 24 hours before I needed something alive in the house with me. Because to me, a house without another living creature is a dead house. Even if I'm alive and I'm in it, the house is dead. So within 24 hours, I went to the Humane Society and adopted another cat. And of course, I always pick the one that is the most difficult to adopt, because that's just who I am. And so my sweet girl's name is Coriander. I didn't name her either. That's a name that she came with. And I call her Sweet Kitty, too. So, but she is just a little cuddle bug. And she's so funny. What the heck was Coriander's, or was Goober's real name? I know he had one, but I don't remember ever calling him anything other than Goober. It was something that didn't make any sense to me. Maybe that's why I can't remember it. There was no association that I could make that made that particular name make any sense. Just like there's really no association with Coriander, although I'm sure that she was probably a member of a litter where they named them things like ginger and cinnamon and coriander, you know, the spices. But I couldn't believe she's a bullseye marmalade, or not a marmalade, a bullseye tortoiseshell tabby cat. And I think nobody wanted to adopt her because she was obese. She was just hugely obese. Well, you kind of fix that by, you know, putting them on good food and not indulging their every whim. That doesn't mean that I don't give her treats. She's always got a food bowl. Always, always. There's always dry food for her. So she never goes hungry. But I also don't, you know, I'm not giving her 3 cans of canned cat food a day. Every time she rushes into the kitchen for food, I'm not giving her, you know, and I never give her people food either. Well, that's not true, and that's a lie. I do give her a little piece of cheese, or a little piece of ham, or a little piece of chicken, but not a huge piece. All in all, she's pretty spoiled. But she's also no longer obese. And she feels good. But she is not a small cat. I put a picture up on my Facebook of I have a little 15-inch television in my studio, and it's over on balanced on a stool next to a window. And for a while, the cat's favorite hangout was on the table with the television. And so I've got this picture of this small television next to this very large cat. Okay. Why is it that coloring takes so long? Have you ever wondered that? Why does it take so long to color? Is it because it's so absorbing? I had hoped that we were going to finish this tonight, but I'm going to guess that we are not. Okay. And, alright, oops. Make sure I'm still on camera here. I realize this part isn't really very satisfying because it's not, I mean, the color is not really changing that much from the pencil to the paint. Not like the pink or the blue. That is just so satisfying when you watch it. Plus, I'm trying to keep my hand out of the, whoops, sorry. Trying to keep my hand out of the wet paper. I'm going to turn this around this way so that we can get these. Trying to keep the shadow out of it as well. That brings me to another point. Alright, and this is probably one of the reasons why I've gotten kind of spooked by this whole thing that's been going on in the coloring community. And so I want to be very, very clear about a couple of things. If I say something like, halo lights are expensive, or, you know, as a starving artist, I can't afford it, you know, that kind of thing. That is not, absolutely is not, any kind of a hint or a request or a thought even that somebody in the coloring community will, you know, will buy that for me. That just is not how I roll. I mean, I won't even publish my wish list because that is just, it's just a thought that just never ever would cross my mind to have somebody, you know, to think that, you know, at any rate, to think that somebody would buy me something, it just totally blows me away. So I just want that absolutely to be clear from the gate. If I say something like, I don't have it because I can't afford it, does not mean I'm asking anybody to buy it for me. Not ever. And so now that we've cleared that up, I don't have to feel spooked about that anymore. But it occurs to me how many times I have said something like that, whether it be in a stream or, in a comment or something like that, in a stream. If I don't have things, it's because I haven't made them a priority. And believe me, if I do make them a priority, I will have them. So, because I will then allocate whatever amount that I'm able to earn into that particular item. I am not an impatient person. I have waited for all the things that I have, and I have purchased each and every one of them with my own money, with the exception of, and here we go, many of my coloring supplies. My first set of pencils, other than my Crayolas, were a set that my friend Sue Curry sent me because she couldn't use them. She had already bought them. She couldn't use them. She sent them to me in the mail. I bought my Prismacolors because I wanted Prismacolors. Those Deli Starjoys, those came from Amanda, who contacted me and said she was cleaning out her coloring supplies of things that she didn't need. And, is there anything that I'd been looking at? And the Black Widows that I have were a gift from a fan of my work who contacted me and asked me if she could send them to me. She was very specific about what it is she wanted to send me and why. And I thought that was very kind of her. But I bought my Derwent Inktense. I bought my Neocolors. And I bought all my coloring books except for one, or actually two, I should say, two, one, both of which were a gift from Sue Curry. And and Sue is, I help her, she helps me. We have a symbiotic relationship. And so that's what that's about. And the two books that she sent me were Layla Dooley's Floribunda, because I really wanted it, and Hannah Carlson, the first one that I ever got, which was Daydreams. And otherwise, every book I have purchased myself. So I just want everybody to be very, very clear that I am not a seeker of things from the coloring community. My goal is to bring value to you, not take things from you. Jeez Louise, I let my blood pressure go high again. Sorry about that. Apparently I feel strongly about that. Okay, now, help me decide, everybody. Do we want to go green? Because I was thinking about doing this green too. So it'd be like more like a vasey, or like a, like it would be a solid here with the gold. Of course, I drew it. It can be whatever I want. These I know are going to be green, so, because they're little leafy guys. So maybe I'll satisfy myself just making these green. Oops, sorry. So I had mentioned that I like to work with the television off, and so I hadn't watched the news in a couple of days, and so imagine how surprised I was when I turned it on and saw Hurricane Michael about to wipe out our friends in the panhandle of Florida. If there are any people down there that are, or any people who watch this, who are affected by that, please know that my heart is with you. I know that the entire area was simply devastated. That cannot be easy to go through, to lose something, precious memories and homes and automobiles, and obviously all of the material things can be replaced eventually, but my understanding is that people died, and that is just so sad. Whoops, am I off screen again? I am. I once again apologize. Okay. Ooh. Love, love, love. Okay, now this gives me a chance to really think about these. I did those in green. See behind the... Oops, you can't see that, can you? Okay, behind the orange flowers, I did green. So I think I should do green behind the orange flowers here and here, which by necessity would also make that green, thinking that all of that is part of the same thing. So I think that is a good idea to make that green. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to make this part in here green. Now I will be adding blending and all of that to all of this. Hopefully you're still watching and still interested. If not, I'm just sitting here having a good time. Trying to think of how I want to finish my next book. And more importantly, what I want to do after that. Because obviously, there's no way I would... I mean, the fact that I'm going to have this one out in time for the Christmas holidays, crossing my fingers that the artists have a good Christmas. Then what? What is next? How much do I want to put into the channel? How much do I what direction do I want to take it? Because then once the next book is out, I'll have a lot more time on my hands to devote to things like coloring and tutorials and learning things, hopefully testing out some art supplies. I do know that I don't want to do reviews. There's plenty of people doing flip-throughs, and plus I simply don't want to compete with people that are as wonderful at it as Color with Claire or the Coloring Queen, Hazel Smithies, although all of hers are mostly silent. One of the reviewers that I really love, and if anybody knows who she is, could you put it in the comments for me? I've been trying to find out who is Coloring in the Dark. Because it is from Coloring in the Dark that I first learned about Jane F. Hankins, who is an artist who does absolutely amazing work. So imaginative. She does both drawings and clay, figurines, things like that. And I believe she's from Arkansas. And her book, The Imaginary World, or The Imaginary Garden, I think, of Jane F. Hankins, won a pretty prestigious book award for the best coloring book of 2018, and hardly anybody has ever heard of her. And, or I should say, hardly anybody had ever heard of her. Now on Facebook, pretty much everybody knows who she is. She's enjoying the kind of reception that Bennett Klein enjoyed when he first started to publish his coloring books. Although Jane's are substantially more expensive. They are also on 11 by 7, or I want to say it's 11 by 17 inch paper. Thick, artist grade, beautifully made books. But they're $40 each, which in my opinion is more than I would ever be willing to pay for a coloring book. I don't really care who it's by. But in her Facebook group, if you hang out at the right times, she has been known to do a freebie. She calls them PDFs, but what she's actually putting up are JPEGs. But you're free to go ahead and download and color it, or save and color it, and post it in her group, which is very kind of her. And but she's a wonderful artist, and I think that if you are willing to pay that for a coloring book, she's certainly worth every penny. I don't mean to say that her books aren't worth it. They absolutely are. It's just that I would never pay that for a coloring book. Okay. I guess I just love kind people. Maybe it's certainly what I love about watching Anne over at A Colorful Life. She's kind, she's always positive, she's so helpful and so generous to people. I have a great deal of respect for the fact that she she's an advocate for herself, and she looks to her own, her own health, rather than complain about life or circumstance or whatever. She finds joy in it. She finds the joy in things, and that's such a wonderful way of being. And I love it because that's a choice. It really is a choice. Everybody has something going on in their lives that they wish was different. But it's how you approach life, I think, that makes the difference. There are professional victims in life to whom life happens, And there are other people that bad things happen and they just, toss it off and go on to the next thing. And those are the kind of people that I would like to be like. It's certainly how I have tried to live my own life. I don't claim to have gotten anywhere near perfection on that, that's for sure. But it's certainly how I have tried to live. And because when it comes right down to it, the only people who are affected by your problems are you. Other people can, of course, empathize and sympathize, but by and large, they're not in a position to do anything about it. Mostly that has to come from you. So a positive attitude is a great place to start. Now, of course, if you ask me that on a day, well, when I say that I'm not ill, I'm not. I've never been physically ill. What I have suffered from throughout my life, or at least from the time, not throughout my life, but at least from the time I was about 35, I have suffered bouts of depression. Now, they've never been accompanied by anything even remotely like, wanting to commit suicide or anything like that, but certainly the blues. And that was because I somewhat substantially altered my own brain chemistry through stupidity, and that was I allowed myself to work myself to the point where I had nervous exhaustion, and I actually collapsed under it. I had taken on more projects than I could possibly handle. At the time, I was the president of the Escrow Association, the president of the Chamber of Commerce, a full-time working certified senior escrow officer for a title company in Nevada, and I was managing a huge budget for a Chamber of Commerce project, and this is what I was talking about the other night when I had said that, you look around and you realize that you're carrying the ball alone. But what are you going to do? So we managed to pull the thing off on budget, barely. And I mean barely. And absolutely you know, people really rallied. They really rallied there toward the end. I will give them credit for that. But for a while, it was looking pretty bleak. And by the time that the event was over, I was literally hallucinating. And the fact that I even got home, I still don't really have any solid understanding of how they got me home. But they did. And I spent the next 3 months as basically a vegetable on the sofa. I would not have eaten if Jim had not have cooked and made me eat. It was pretty bad there for a while. He really, I mean, I really worried him. I really, really worried him. And ever since, I've suffered from what I call situational blues. And situational blues are just that. You get blue about wishing things could be different. And then you know, because I've had enough landmark training, actually, and I've gone through the landmark program, and I have yet to decide if it was a cult or not. It probably was, but they didn't want me because I didn't have any money. So, but I got a lot out of it. I learned how to for those of you who are unfamiliar with landmark training, it's the old EST. And for those of you who are not old enough to remember what EST was, just be glad. But one of the things you do get out of it is sort of the ability to separate out the what happened from the what you told yourself about what happened. And that was of extreme value to me, and has been ever since. You know, the what happened is we pulled off a successful event. Everything about how that event got to be a success, or who carried the ball or whatever, that's just the story that we all are telling ourselves about it. I have one point of view, other people have their own point of view. And that's the truth. You know, the reality is that no two people are ever going to agree on this particular issue, and on amongst the people that I know, and so I've come to grips with that. It's the whole you can't make people love you kind of thing. Much as you'd like it to happen, it isn't. You can't force anybody to do something that they don't want to do. But every once in a while, and usually around this time of the year, this whole October, November, December thing, I will start to struggle with it. Last year, I couldn't struggle with it because there were other people in my life, my neighbors, who were having some serious issues of their own. And so it gave me just the perfect distraction that I needed to not be thinking about myself. But now that I know that it comes, I'm so much better prepared for it. because it means that I can ignore it because I know what it is. You know, it used to be that you'd get depressed and you'd go, oh, what's wrong? You know, what has happened? This is the golden yellow, and I'm just going to do this frame before I accidentally color it some other color. And I'm going to do the same thing. Last time on this, I put in that amber ahead of time, and I've learned this from Lisa. If you don't do that, the color won't fade out quite as much, because I'm going to have to put another layer here. And so if I do this with the yellow, and then I put the amber down over that, once the yellow is dry, then it'll be a much better color, and I might not even have to do a second coat or a second layer. So I'll tell you more about that later. It involves my family, and that is just always a tough subject for me to ever talk about. Talk about Debbie Downer. Wait a minute. They're not bad. They're not bad. They've done very well for themselves in their lives. I have two very handsome nephews who have two beautiful wives, and between them have 4 children. My youngest nephew has 3. My eldest has 1. They have enjoyed great success, and they work very, very hard. Actually, let's make this yellow too. Only because I've been toying with the idea of doing a black background on this, sort of trying to plan ahead for the inevitable end of it. And this would be, if that's gold, then this would probably be gold too. Okay, then this one. Oh yeah, see, that way this becomes 2-dimensional. Okay, or 3-dimensional. I think I was here. Yes, I did stop and start the video one more time. Okay. I've actually done that a remarkable number of times, but you have to have a good eye to find it. Okay. What? Trying to think of I saw something the other day on YouTube that was, oh, I know what I was going to do. If you've been following along on Inktober, I love that Zarget Hunter has been filming her daily YouTube adventure, or Inktober adventure. So those are definitely a worthy watch. Her art is powerful, and not always. I mean, sometimes it's fun. Like, she got stuck on the prompt flow, and so she decided to do a drawing showing the way that water flows through the cycle of evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and then sublimation. I think so, where it sinks into the ground and goes into the aquifers or out into the rivers, that kind of thing. And then she follows that up with one about guarded, that basically is a chastity belt. And you stop and juxtapose those two things against one another, and it's just amazing. Deep, you can, an artist who has a statement, it doesn't matter the execution or what it is powerful, a very powerful piece. The piece that she did that was early on in Inktober, I want to say it was, I don't know what the keyword was, or what the prompt word was. It was roasted. That was it. Roasted. Go and watch her video on that. I'm not going to tell you about it, but let's put it this way. I came up with a coffee pot. That's not powerful. What she came up with, that was powerful. I have, just as sort of a testament to the fact that I really have been working on Sue's book, I did day 6, which was drool. And to me, this chocolate cake makes me drool. So that was my entry. And then I still have to fill in the rest of the days. I will get back to it. I'm marking down the names of the prompts, but I had to back burner it a little bit. Okay, so let's see how we're looking. We're looking good. We've made a little more progress. And hopefully, well, let me do these. That last bit. Actually, let me do this, because I know what I want to do with those. So I'm going to do that. This is the tangerine, and I want to go ahead and put, and this is what I'm because remember that the tangerine now is the, oops, let's go back in. Okay, the tangerine now is the lighter, or the darker, of these two shades. So, basically with what I learned from Lisa, this should be a nice pop. If you can hear my stomach growling, I really apologize. It is 5:26 in the morning. And while I did eat dinner, it was several hours ago. Okay, so now I'm gonna do that a little bit differently this time, in that I'll wet the lighter areas first, and then sort of stay away from them. What I'm looking for is the color to sort of bleed into the lighter areas. Okay, and roll one more time. It has gotten substantially cooler here in Virginia. Which I noticed the other night when I went out to the grocery store at 10 something in the evening, and it was cold. And I was still wearing shorts and a sleeveless shirt, so might be time to drag out the long sleeve t-shirts again. Okay, that's better. That's a little more like what I had hoped for. And the idea of continuing the gold all the way around, we'll go ahead and make these golden yellow as well. Goodness gracious, stomach. It's not as if I haven't fed you. You've eaten. It said, yeah, but you showed me that chocolate cake. You shouldn't have showed me the chocolate cake, Christine. Are any of you like me? I have absolutely no discipline. If that kind of stuff is in the house, it is history, because I will eat it. I've solved the problem by only buying a piece of cake when I go to the grocery store, or a small cake, like the 2-piece size that they put in the little plastic container in the deli or in the bakery section of most grocery stores. I've even tried buying the cupcakes and then throwing them in the freezer. But if they're in the house, there's just no justification. So I learned a long time ago that the best discipline for me is to just not tease myself with them, to just go ahead and leave them in the grocery store where they belong. I am not at all like that with candy, though. I could have a candy bar in the house for, well, and have for 2 or 3 years, and only eat a square every 3 or 4 months. Unless it's a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. At which point in time I do have enough discipline to limit myself to one per day. And I don't much care for ice cream, so that's kind of a good thing. But cake, oh, I am a cake girl all the way. And cookies. I've never met a cookie I didn't like. Oatmeal cookies, chocolate chip cookies, sugar cookies, snickerdoodles. Those cookies that they make at Christmas time with the Hershey's Kiss. Oh, love those. The Hershey's Kiss in the center. And oatmeal cookies. No raisins though. Oatmeal chocolate chip. Oh, that's the best. Oatmeal cookies with the little miniature chocolate chips. Oh, just yummy. Okay, I am going to go ahead and quit this one here. There will be one more session in which we add just a little bit of detail. I'll have to decide whether or not we want to do that with pencil or go ahead and stick with the Inktense. I think we may stick with the Inktense because I do want to show you the power of the white. And I think that I can manage that on this one. So, I have absolutely no idea how much time is elapsed in these little pieces. But this is what we've done so far. Hopefully you like it. If you do, please subscribe and you'll like what you've heard here. And some of the other content. Be sure to look at the playlist because I'm trying to switch up content as well. So that there is something here at CLAldridge Art for everybody. Artists, colorists, just people who like to listen to other people talk. For everybody. And until then, color something pretty. Thank you.